The Catholic world was stunned when Cardinal Tagle came within reach of the papacy. Yet his story is far from over. At 67, Tagle stands at the crossroads of faith history and destiny, carrying the hope of millions across Asia and the global South. His youth by Vatican standards, his global influence, and his passionate commitment to a modern, compassionate church make him a contender whose time may still come. As the church faces a new era, the question isn't just whether Tagle can become pope, but whether the world is ready for the transformation he represents. What happens next could change the future of Catholicism forever. Subscribe now and tell us, do you believe Tagle should be the next pope? Part 1. The Unfinished Story, Tagle's Papal Dream. After the conclave, the Catholic world watched in awe as Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle, affectionately known as Chito, came within reach of the papacy during the recent conclave. For a fleeting moment, it seemed the church was on the verge of electing its first Asian pope, a man whose humility, compassion, and vision for a more inclusive church had inspired millions across continents. Yet, as the white smoke rose and a new name was announced, Tagle's story took a different turn. The question now lingers in the hearts of many. Could Tagle still become pope in the future? What are the real chances, and what factors will shape his destiny in the next conclave? To understand Tagle's prospects, one must first appreciate the unique tapestry of his journey. Born in Manila, raised in a devout Catholic family, Tagle's early life was marked by service study and a deep love for the poor. His rise from parish priest to Archbishop of Manila, and eventually to the Vatican as pro-prefect for the dicastery for evangelization, was guided not by ambition, but by a genuine desire to serve. His leadership style, marked by listening dialogue and a refusal to judge, has drawn comparisons to Pope Francis, earning him the nickname Asian Francis. At 67, Tagle is considered young by Vatican standards, where many cardinals are well into their 70s or 80s at the time of election. This relative youth gives him a significant advantage. In the world of papal politics, age is both a blessing and a challenge. Too young and the cardinals may fear a pontificate that stretches decades. Too old, and the energy to lead a global church may be questioned. Tagle's age positions him perfectly for a future conclave, experienced, but with the vigor to shepherd the church through changing times. Yet age is only one factor. Influence both within the Vatican and among the global faithful is equally crucial. Tagle's 5 years leading the church's missionary arm have given him deep ties with bishops and communities in developing nations. His approachable style, preference for being called Chito, and his ability to communicate across cultures have made him a beloved figure, especially in the global South. His advocacy for migrantees, the marginalized, and those often left out by traditional church structures, resonates with a new generation of Catholics seeking a more compassionate faith. But Tagle's progressive stance is a double-edged sword. His openness to LGBT+, Catholics, divorced and remarried couples, and his call for a new language of mercy have inspired hope for many, but raised concerns among more conservative factions in the church. Some cardinals see in him a natural heir to Francis's reformist legacy, while others worry about a perceived dilution of doctrine. The conclave is never simply a matter of popularity. It is a delicate dance of alliances, ideologies, and the ever-present movement of the Holy Spirit. Tagle's critics point to moments when his leadership was seen as too gentle or not forceful enough in confronting crises. In the Philippines, he faced criticism for his response to the country's brutal drug war and allegations of clerical abuse. In Rome, his tenure at Caritas Internationalis and Nadid, with the entire leadership being dismissed after an external review cited management issues. These challenges, while not unique to Tagle, are reminders that every papabile is subject to scrutiny, and the path to the papacy is never without obstacles. Yet Tagle's humility in the face of criticism and his refusal to label others or himself as liberal or conservative reflect a deeper wisdom. He has often urged the Church to move beyond labels, to listen to the totality of each person, and to rediscover the richness of tradition in light of new realities. For Tagle, the Church is not a fortress to be defended, but a home to be opened. A living tradition capable of embracing the wounds and hopes of humanity. The next conclave will unfold in a church that is more global, more diverse, and more in need of bridge builders than ever before. Tagle's experience in Asia, his years in the Vatican, and his relationships with cardinals from every continent position him as a candidate who can unite rather than divide. His election would signal a bold step toward the future, a church that listens, heals, and accompanies all people. But the conclave is also a place of surprises. History shows that frontrunners can falter and compromise. Candidates can emerge from the shadows. Tagle's chances will depend on the alliances he builds, the openness of his fellow cardinals to a truly global church, and the willingness of the Holy Spirit to lead the church into uncharted waters. As the church moves forward, Tagle's story remains unfinished. His age, influence, and the hopes he carries for millions make him a perennial contender. Whether or not he ever wears the white cassock, his witness of humility, listening, and mercy will continue to shape the church for years to come. For those who dream of a more compassionate and inclusive Catholicism, Tagle's journey is a sign that the Spirit is still at work and that the future is always open to grace. In the end, the question is simply whether Tagle could still become Pope. It is whether the Church is ready for the transformation he represents. The next conclave will answer that question. But until then, the world watches, prays, and hopes for a leader who embodies the gospel with joy, courage, and a heart open to all. Part 2, Tagle's unique profile. Age, experience, and global appeal. Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle stands out in the College of Cardinals, not only for his personal warmth and humility, but also for a profile that bridges continents, generations, and theological perspectives. Understanding his unique position is essential to grasping why so many Catholics, especially in Asia and the global South, continue to see him as a beacon of hope for the future of the Church. Tagle was born in 1957 in Manila, a city where faith and daily life are deeply intertwined. Growing up in a devout Catholic family, he learned early the values of compassion, service, and listening. These traits became the foundation of his vocation. As a young seminarian, Tagle was known for his keen intellect and gentle spirit. He pursued advanced theological studies in the United States, earning a doctorate in theology with a focus on the collegiality of bishops at the Second Vatican Council, a subject that would shape his vision for a more dialogical and participatory church. His pastoral journey began in the Philippines, where he served as a parish priest, seminary rector, and eventually Bishop of Imos. Tagle's leadership style was marked by accessibility and a willingness to be present among his people. He rode his bicycle through neighborhoods, visited the poor in their homes, and made himself available to anyone in need. His homilies, often broadcast on television and radio, reached millions and were celebrated for their clarity, humor, and deep empathy. In 2011, Tagle was appointed Archbishop of Manila, one of the most influential positions in the Asian Church. His tenure was characterized by a focus on social justice outreach to the margins and a commitment to the dialogue with other faiths. He became known as a bishop of the poor, advocating for migrants, the homeless, and those affected by natural disasters. His leadership during times of crisis, such as typhoons and political unrest, further cemented his reputation as a compassionate and steady guide. Tagle's global profile rose rapidly. In 2012, Pope Benedict XVI made him a cardinal, recognizing not only his pastoral gifts, but also his potential to bring the voice of Asia to the heart of the Church. Tagle's subsequent appointments by Pope Francis, including his role as a prefect of the Congregation for the Evangelization of Peoples, placed him at the center of the Vatican's missionary outreach. In this role, he has built relationships with bishops and lay leaders across Africa, Latin America, and Asia, championing a vision of the Church that is both rooted in tradition and open to the newness of the Spirit Age. Is a critical factor in papal elections, and Tagle's is particularly noteworthy. At 67, he is considered young in Vatican circles, where many cardinals are well into their 70s or 80s. This relative youth gives him a vitality and energy that many see as essential for leading a global church facing rapid change. At the same time, his decades of experience, from local parishes to the highest levels of Vatican administration, give him a depth of wisdom and perspective that few can match. Tagle's appeal is not limited to his age or experience. His ability to communicate across cultures and generations has made him a beloved figure among young Catholics and those who feel distant from the institutional church. He speaks several languages fluently, including English, Italian, and Tagalog, and is known for his approachable style. Tagle often jokes about his own mistakes, shares personal stories, and invites others to do the same. This disarming humility has endeared him to many who are wary of clericalis, or distant authority. Perhaps most importantly, Tagle embodies a vision of the Church that resonates with the priorities of Pope Francis, a church that goes to the peripheries, listens to the cries of the poor, and seeks to build bridges rather than walls. His advocacy for migrants, his openness to dialogue with other religions, and his insistence on mercy over judgment position him as a leader for a new era, one in which the Church is called to be a field hospital, tending to the wounds of humanity. Yet Tagle's profile is not without its challenges. His gentle approach, while widely admired, has sometimes been criticized as lacking the forcefulness needed to confront entrenched problems within the Church. His tenure at Caritas Internationalis ended abruptly after a Vatican-ordered review cited management issues, though Tagle himself was not personally implicated in wrongdoing. In the Philippines, he has faced criticism for not being more outspoken against government abuses or for moving too slowly on certain reforms. Despite these critiques, Tagle's resilience and humility have only strengthened his appeal. He has never sought to defend himself aggressively or to retaliate against critics. Instead, he returns to the gospel, reminding others that leadership in the Church is ultimately about service, not power. His favorite phrase, Dominus est. It is the Lord, reflects his conviction that God is present in every encounter, every challenge, and every moment of discernment. As the Church looks to the future, Tagle's unique combination of age experience and global appeal makes him a perennial candidate for the papacy. He represents a bridge between tradition and innovation, East and West, young and old. For many, he is a living sign that the Spirit continues to raise up leaders who are humble, compassionate, and deeply attuned to the needs of the world. Whether or not Tagle ever becomes Pope, his journey offers a roadmap for the kind of leadership the Church needs in the 21st century, leadership that listens, accompanies, and serves with joy. In the next conclave, these qualities may prove decisive, not only for Tagle himself, but for the future of Catholicism. Part 3. The Power of Influence, Tagle's Reach. Within and beyond the Vatican, Cardinal Tagle's influence is felt both within the walls of the Vatican and far beyond, touching the lives of Catholics and non-Catholics alike across the globe. His journey from Manila to Rome has been marked by a consistent commitment to building relationships, fostering dialogue, and embodying the Church's call to be a servant to all. Understanding the breadth and depth of Tagle's influence is key to appreciating his ongoing potential as a papal candidate. Within the Vatican, Tagle is respected for his theological acumen, pastoral sensitivity, and diplomatic skill. His leadership of the congregation for the evangelization of peoples placed him at the heart of the Church's global mission. In this role, he oversaw the appointment and support of bishops in mission territories, many of which face unique challenges of poverty, persecution, and rapid social change. Tagle's approach has been to listen first, to seek understanding, and to accompany local churches rather than impose solutions from above. This style has earned him the trust of many bishops, especially in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, who see in him a genuine partner in their struggles and hopes. Tagle's influence is also evident in his ability to navigate the complex politics of the Vatican. He is known for his discretion, his avoidance of factionalism, and his willingness to work with cardinals and officials from across the ideological spectrum. In an environment often marked by intrigue and rivalry, Tagle's humility and transparency stand out. He is not seen as a power broker or a schemer, but as a man of prayer and dialogue. This reputation has made him a sought-after advisor, especially on issues related to evangelization, social justice, and the Church's engagement with the modern world. Beyond the Vatican, Tagle's reach is even more remarkable. He is a beloved figure in the Philippines, where his pastoral presence and advocacy for the poor have made him a national icon. His homilies, often broadcast on television and shared widely on social media, are known for their warmth, humor, and deep spiritual insight. Tagle's ability to speak to the everyday struggles of ordinary people has endeared him to millions, making him one of the most recognizable Catholic leaders in Asia. Tagle's global influence extends to his work with international organizations. As president of Caritas Internationalis, the Church's worldwide network of charitable agencies, he championed the cause of migrants, refugees, and victims of natural disasters. He traveled to conflict zones, listened to the stories of those on the margins, and advocated for policies of compassion and inclusion. Under his leadership, Caritas became a powerful voice for social justice, rooted in the gospel and attentive to the cries of the poor. His influence is also felt among young people and those who feel alienated from the Church. Tagle has a gift for communication, using stories, humor, and honesty to connect with audiences who might otherwise feel distant from religious authority. He is active on social media, where his messages of hope and encouragement reach a global audience. Tagle's openness to dialogue with other faiths, his respect for cultural diversity, and his insistence on the dignity of every person have made him a bridge builder in a world often divided by fear and misunderstanding. Yet, influence in the Church is always a delicate matter. Tagle's prominence has sometimes made him a target for criticism, both from those who see him as too progressive and from those who wish he would be more assertive in defending traditional teachings. His gentle approach is not always understood or appreciated in a world that often values strength and certainty over vulnerability and listening. Still, Tagle has remained steadfast in his conviction that true authority in the Church comes from service, not domination. As the Church faces new challenges, including secularization, political polarization, and the ongoing wounds of abuse and scandal, Tagle's style of leadership offers a model for how to engage the world with humility and hope. His influence is not just a matter of position or title, but of witness, a life lived in imitation of Christ, open to the Spirit, and attentive to the needs of others. In the context of a future conclave, Tagle's influence could be decisive. His relationships with cardinals from every continent, his reputation as a man of dialogue and peace, and his deep roots in both the global South and the Vatican make him a candidate who could unite diverse factions. For many, his election would signal a church ready to embrace a more inclusive and missionary identity. For others, it would be a bold step into a future where leadership is defined not by power, but by the capacity to listen, to heal, and to serve. Ultimately, Tagle's influence is a testament to the power of humility, compassion, and faithfulness. Whether or not he becomes Pope, his example continues to inspire the Church to be a light for the world, a community of hope, and a sign of God's love for all. Part 4. The Hopes of Asia and the Global South. Tagle as a symbol of change. For millions of Catholics across Asia and the Global South, Cardinal Tagle is much more than a church leader. He is a living symbol of hope renewal and the possibility of a more inclusive and compassionate Catholicism. His journey from the streets of Manila to the heart of the Vatican has inspired countless believers who have long felt distant from the centers of ecclesial power. To understand Tagle's enduring appeal, one must listen to the voices of ordinary people who see in him the embodiment of their dreams for a church that truly listens and walks with them. In the Philippines, Tagle's homeland, his name is spoken with affection and pride. He is seen as a pastor who understands the struggles of daily life, poverty, migration, natural disasters, and the longing for dignity in a rapidly changing world. His humility and warmth have endeared him to people of all backgrounds, from the slums of Manila to the halls of academia. Tagle's simple lifestyle, his willingness to share meals with the poor, and his habit of listening more than speaking have made him a shepherd after the heart of Christ. But Tagle's influence extends far beyond the Philippines. In Vietnam, India, Indonesia, and across the vast continent of Asia, Catholics look to him as a voice for those on the peripheries. His advocacy for migrants, refugees, and those who suffer injustice resonates deeply in regions marked by economic hardship and social upheaval. Tagle's leadership in Caritas Internationalis brought him into contact with locale communities facing war, famine, and displacement. His presence was not that of an outsider, but of a brother who shared in their pain and hopes. In Africa and Latin America too, Tagle's witness has found a home. Bishops and lay leaders see in him an ally who understands the challenges of evangelization in cultures shaped by colonialism, poverty, and rapid social change. His commitment to dialogue with other religions, especially Islam and indigenous faiths, has helped build bridges of peace in places where division and violence too often prevail. Tagle's insistence that the Church must be a field hospital tending to the wounds of humanity has inspired priests, religious and lay people to renew their own commitment to service and solidarity. For young Catholics, Tagle represents the hope of a church that is not afraid to change. His openness to questions, his willingness to admit mistakes, and his encouragement of honest dialogue have made him a role model for a new generation seeking authenticity and relevance in their faith. Tagle's use of social media, his presence at World Youth Day, and his engagement with youth movements have further cemented his reputation as a leader who listens and responds to the concerns of the young. Tagle's appeal is also rooted in his vision of a church that is both universal and local. He has often spoken of the need for the Church to learn from the wisdom of every culture, to celebrate diversity, and to resist the temptation to impose uniformity. For Tagle, The gospel is not a set of rules to be enforced, but a living invitation to encounter Christ in every person, especially the poor and marginalized. This vision resonates deeply in the global South, where the church is growing rapidly, and where the challenges of poverty, migration, and injustice are most acute. Yet Tagle's role as a symbol of hope is not without its challenges. Some in the church worry that his emphasis on mercy and inclusion could lead to confusion or a weakening of doctrine. Others fear that his gentle style may not be strong enough to confront the entrenched problems of clericalism, corruption, or resistance to reform. Still, for many, Tagle's example is a reminder that true strength lies not in domination but in service, not in imposing solutions, but in accompanying people on their journey. As the church continues to shift towards the global South, the possibility of a pope from Asia is no longer a distant dream. Tagle's candidacy is seen by many as a sign that the church is ready to embrace a more diverse and missionary identity. His election would send a powerful message to Catholics in every corner of the world that their voices matter, that their struggles are seen, and that the future of the church belongs to all. In the end, the hope that Tagle represents is not just about one man or one office. It is about the promise of a church that is open to the Spirit, attentive to the cries of the poor, and willing to walk with all people, regardless of their background or circumstance. Whether or not Tagle ever becomes pope, his witness will continue to inspire Catholics everywhere to dream of a church that reflects the love, mercy, and justice of Christ. Part 5. The Challenge of Reform. Tagle's stance on renewal and tradition. Cardinal Tagle's journey has always been marked by a delicate balance between honoring the Church's rich tradition and embracing the urgent call for renewal. As the Church faces rapid social, cultural, and technological changes, Tagle's approach to reform has become a focal point of both hope and debate. His vision is not one of rupture, but of deep listening discernment and a willingness to let the Holy Spirit guide the Church through the complexities of the modern world. Tagle's understanding of reform is rooted in his pastoral experience. He has witnessed firsthand the suffering of the poor, the struggles of migrants, and the wounds inflicted by injustice and exclusion. For Tagle, true reform begins with compassion, with the ability to see Christ in those who are hurting and to respond with concrete acts of mercy. He often recalls the words of Pope Francis describing the Church as a field hospital where the most urgent wounds must be treated first. Tagle believes that the Church's credibility depends not on perfect structures or flawless doctrine, but on its willingness to accompany people in their real-life journeys. This pastoral approach has shaped Tagle's stance on some of the most pressing issues facing the Church today. He has called for a more welcoming attitude toward those who have felt excluded, including divorced and remarried, Catholics, LGBTQ+ individuals, and those who struggle with faith. Tagle insists that the Church must not close its doors or hearts, but must learn to listen before judging, to accompany before prescribing solutions. His emphasis on dialogue and encounter has resonated with many who long for a more compassionate and inclusive church. At the same time, Tagle is deeply respectful of the Church's tradition. He does not advocate for change for its own sake, nor does he dismiss the wisdom of centuries. Instead, he sees tradition as a living reality, a source of guidance and inspiration that must be interpreted anew in every age. Tagle often speaks of the need to return to the sources, to rediscover the gospel in its simplicity and power, and to allow the Spirit to breathe new life into old forms. For him, reform is not about abandoning the past, but about allowing the past to illuminate the path forward. Tagle's approach to reform is also shaped by his experience in the global South, where the Church is growing but faces immense challenges. He understands that renewal cannot be imposed from above, but must emerge from the lived experience of local communities. Tagle has championed the idea of synodality, a church that walks together, listens to all voices, and discerns the will of God as a community. This vision of a synodal church has been a key theme of Pope Francis's pontificate, and Tagle has been one of its strongest advocates. However, Tagle's stance on reform has not been without controversy. Some critics accuse him of being too accommodating, of risking confusion or even division by emphasizing mercy over clarity. Others worry that his gentle style may not be forceful enough to confront the entrenched problems of clericalism, abuse, or resistance to change. Tagle himself has acknowledged these concerns, but he remains convinced that the only path to authentic reform is through humility, patience, and trust in the Spirit. Tagle's leadership during the COVID-19 pandemic offers a concrete example of his approach. As the world faced unprecedented suffering, he called on the Church to be a source of hope and solidarity. He urged Catholics to reach out to those in need, to support one another in prayer and action, and to remain open to the new ways God might be calling the Church to serve. Tagle's own willingness to adapt, to use new technologies, to engage with young people, and to foster dialogue across differences has shown that tradition and innovation can go hand in hand. In the context of a future conclave, Tagle's stance on reform will be both an asset and a challenge. For those who long for a more open and compassionate church, his vision offers hope. For those who fear that change could undermine the Church's identity, his approach raises questions. The next pope will need to navigate these tensions with wisdom, courage, and a deep sense of prayerful discernment. Ultimately, Tagle's commitment to renewal is grounded in his faith that the Church belongs to Christ, not to any one generation or group. He often reminds others that the Spirit is always at work leading the Church into new and sometimes unexpected places. Whether or not Tagle becomes Pope, his witness challenges all Catholics to embrace the adventure of faith, to hold fast to what is good, let go of what no longer serves, and to trust that God is always making all things new. Part 6. Age and Time. The Clock. Ticking on Tagle's papal prospects. One of the most significant factors shaping Cardinal Tagle's chances in any future conclave is his age, a detail that carries both promise and urgency in the unique context of papal elections. At 67 years old, Tagle is considered young by the standards of the College of Cardinals, where many members are well into their 70s or even 80s. This relative youth grants him a vitality and long-term vision that many see as essential for the leadership of a global church facing rapid and unpredictable change. Yet time is both a friend and a formidable adversary. In the recent conclave, Tagle's age was seen as a considerable advantage. The Church, after several decades of older popes, is increasingly aware of the need for a pontiff with the energy to travel to engage with the world's youth and to shepherd the Church through a period of transformation. Tagle's physical health, his approachable demeanor, and his ability to connect with people of all ages make him a compelling candidate for those who envision a dynamic and outward-looking papacy. However, the window of opportunity is not indefinite. The rules of the conclave stipulate that only cardinals under the age of 80 are eligible to vote or be elected pope. This means that barring unexpected events, Tagle has roughly a decade left in which he can realistically be considered for the papacy. In the world of Vatican politics, a decade can pass quickly, and the landscape can shift dramatically with each new appointment crisis or wave of reform. The question of age is not just about eligibility, it is also about perception. Cardinals and observers alike weigh the potential length of a pontificate when casting their votes. Younger Pope is seen as a leader who can provide stability and continuity, steering the Church through long-term challenges. At the same time, some may hesitate to elect a candidate perceived as too young, fearing a pontificate that could extend for decades and potentially outlast the consensus that brought him to power. In this sense, Tagle's current age positions him in a sweet spot, old enough to command respect and experience, young enough to offer a vision for the future. Tagle's age also intersects with the broader generational shifts within the Church. The College of Cardinals has become more international and diverse, with a growing number of members from Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Many of these cardinals are themselves younger than their European counterparts, and they bring with them fresh perspectives and a desire for renewal. Tagle's age and background make him a natural bridge between these emerging voices and the traditions of the past. Yet time can also work against Tagle. The pace of change in the Vatican is often slow, and the momentum that carried him to the forefront in one conclave see and dissipate as new faces and crises emerge. The election of a new pope always brings with it a reshuffling of alliances, priorities, and public attention. If Tagle is to remain a viable candidate, he will need to continue building relationships, demonstrating leadership, and staying engaged with the issues that matter most to the Church. There's also the reality that health and energy are unpredictable. While Tagle is currently in good health, the demands of the papacy are immense, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. The cardinals who elect the next pope will be looking for someone who can not only inspire but also endure the rigors of global leadership. Tagle's proven resilience and adaptability are assets, but the passage of time will inevitably bring new challenges. Ultimately, the question of age is inseparable from the question of God's timing. Tagle himself has often spoken of the importance of discernment, patience, and trust in the Holy Spirit. He does not seek the papacy for its own sake, nor does he see age as a guarantee or a barrier for Tagle. Every season of life is an opportunity to serve, to listen, and to grow in faith. As the clock ticks, Tagle's prospects remain strong, but not assured. His age gives him a window of opportunity that is both promising and fleeting. The next decade will be crucial, not only for Tagle personally, but for the Church as it seeks leaders who can bridge generations, cultures, and visions for the future. Whether or not Tagle becomes Pope, his journey is a reminder that the call to serve is always shaped by the mystery of time, and that every moment is a gift to be received with gratitude and hope. Part 7. The Weight of Expectations, Tagle and the Hopes of a Changing Church. Cardinal. Tagle's name evokes powerful emotions and high expectations among Catholics and observers worldwide. For many, he is not just a respected leader, but a symbol of the Church's potential to change, heal, and reach new horizons. As conversations about his papal prospects continue, it is clear that much more than personal ambition is at stake. Tagle carries the hopes, dreams, and sometimes the frustrations of a global church in transition. In the Philippines, Tagle's home country, the anticipation surrounding his possible election as Pope is palpable. He is a national figure whose humility and approachability have made him beloved by people from all walks of life. For Filipino Catholics, Tagle represents the possibility of seeing one of their own at the highest level of church leadership, a validation of their faith and their contributions to global Catholicism. The idea of a Filipino Pope inspires pride, unity, and a renewed sense of mission, not only in the Philippines, but across the vast Filipino diaspora. But the hopes invested in Tagle go far beyond national pride. In Asia, Africa, and Latin America, many see in him a voice for the global South, a leader who understands the realities of poverty, migration, and religious diversity. Tagle's advocacy for the marginalized, his openness to dialogue, and his gentle yet firm defense of human dignity resonate deeply in regions where the Church is growing and where the challenges are immense. For young Catholics, Tagle's authenticity, humor, and willingness to engage with difficult questions make him a relatable and inspiring figure. Within the Vatican and the wider Church, Tagle is seen as a bridge builder. His ability to listen to mediate between differing viewpoints and to foster a spirit of synodality aligns closely with the vision of Pope Francis. Many cardinals and church leaders look to Tagle as someone who could continue and deepen the reforms of the Francis era, emphasizing mercy, inclusion, and a church that goes out to the peripheries. His leadership style, marked by humility and a refusal to seek the spotlight, is viewed as a remedy to the clericalism and power struggles that have sometimes plagued the church's hierarchy. However, with these high expectations come significant pressures. Tagle is acutely aware that he cannot be everything to everyone, the very qualities that make him attractive to some. His openness to change, his compassion for the excluded, are seen by others as sources of concern or even division. Some worry that his gentle approach may not be forceful enough to address entrenched problems such as clerical abuse, financial mismanagement, or doctrinal confusion. Others fear that his emphasis on mercy and dialogue could lead to a dilution of Catholic identity or loss of moral clarity. Tagle himself has often spoken about the burden of expectations. He approaches his ministry with a sense of humility and realism, acknowledging that true leadership is not about fulfilling every desire, but about discerning God's will in the midst of complexity. He frequently reminds others that the Church's mission is ultimately about serving Christ and His people, not about personal glory or institutional success. For Tagle, the path forward is one of listening patience and faithful witness, trusting that God will provide the grace needed for each new challenge. The expectations placed on Tagle are also a reflection of broader hopes for the Church's future. Many Catholics long for a more inclusive, compassionate, and missionary Church. One that is unafraid to confront injustice, to welcome those on the margins, and to engage with the world's joys and sorrows. Tagle's story, his leadership, and his very presence at the heart of the Church have become touchstones for these aspirations. In the end, the weight of expectations is both a gift and a challenge. It is a sign of the Church's vitality, its longing for renewal, and its belief that the Holy Spirit continues to raise up leaders for every age. Tagle's journey reminds us that hope is not found in any one person, but in the community of faith that listens, prays, and walks together, whether or not he becomes Pope. Tagle's life is a testament to T. He power of hope, a hope that is humble, persistent, and always open to the surprises of God. Part 8. The global impact of Tagle's candidacy, promise, possibility, and tensions. As the world's attention turns to the next conclave, Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle stands as both a symbol of hope and a figure of profound possibility for the Catholic Church. His candidacy is not just a matter of personal ambition or national pride. It is a moment charged with meaning for Catholics across continents, especially in Asia and the global South, where the Church's future is rapidly taking shape. Tagle's influence in Rome is rooted in both his powerful position as head of the dicastery for evangelization and his personal qualities, known as the Red Pope. The leader of this office oversees the Church's missionary work across Africa, Asia, and Latin America, shaping the very future of Catholicism in the developing world. From his office near Piazza di Spagna, Tagle has played a decisive role in appointing bishops, supporting priests, and allocating resources to the regions where the Church is most vibrant and where its challenges are greatest. His work has placed him at the center of the Church's engagement with cultures and peoples often overlooked by the traditional centers of power. Yet Tagle's impact is not merely institutional. His deep empathy, emotional openness, and pastoral sensitivity have left a mark on all who encounter him. Tears shed in public heartfelt homilies, and his willingness to share in the joys and sorrows of the faithful have made him a shepherd who is genuinely close to the people. For many, these qualities are not signs of weakness, but of a leader who is deeply human and authentically Christian. His ability to unite and mobilize, especially among Filipinos and Asian Catholics, has been described as wonderfully uniting and mobilizing, creating a sense of shared purpose and pride. Tagle's heritage and experience also give him a unique perspective in some of the Church's most delicate challenges. Born to a Chinese mother, he is acutely aware of the complexities of the Vatican's relationship with China and the struggles of Catholics there, divided between the official state-sanctioned Church and the underground communities loyal to Rome. As one of only 2 Asian prelates in high-level Vatican positions, Tagle brings a rare and much-needed voice from the region, advocating for dialogue, patience, and a careful approach to sensitive diplomatic issues. His progressive stance on pastoral issues has also made him a lightning rod for hope and controversy. Tagle is known for his openness to allowing divorced and remarried Catholics to receive communion on a case-by-case basis. His inclusion of LGBTQ+ Catholics and his strong advocacy for migrants and refugees. He has spoken out against the preferential treatment of Christians in refugee resettlement, arguing that such policies create division and animosity. These positions have endeared him to many who long for a more compassionate and inclusive church, but they have also drawn criticism from more traditionalist voices who worry about doctrinal ambiguity and the direction of reform. The emotional and symbolic resonance of Tagle's candidacy is powerfully felt among ordinary Catholics, pilgrims from the Philippines and beyond. Travel to Rome, praying for the Holy Spirit's guidance and hoping to see one of their own lead the Church. For many, Tagle's election would be a blessing not just for Filipinos, but for Catholics worldwide, a sign that the Church is finally recognizing the faith and vitality of communities long on the periphery. His viral videos, joyful singing, and genuine connection with people have created a sense of pride and unity that transcends borders. Yet Tagle's very strengths also create tensions. In more traditionalist circles, especially in Europe and North America, his emotional style and alignment with Pope Francis's vision for a more pastoral and de-dialogical church are met with hesitation and even concern. Some question whether his gentleness can meet the demands of the papacy, or whether his openness to dialogue might lead to doctrinal ambiguity. For them, Tagle represents not betrayal, but uncertainty, a challenge to the familiar lines of authority and doctrine. The media, too, would seize on the historic nature of his possible election. The headlines, "First Filipino Pope," would dominate global news, sparking debates about representation, the future of Catholicism, and the Church's shifting center of gravity. For many in the developing world, Tagle's papacy would feel like justice, a long overdue recognition that sanctity and leadership flourish not only in European capitals, but in the barrios, villages, and mission outposts of the global South. At the heart of this moment is a deeper question. What kind of shepherd does the Church need now? Tagle's candidacy forces the Church to confront its own soul, to discern whether it is ready for a vision as radical in its tenderness as it is in its truth. His life and ministry invite Catholics everywhere to imagine a church that is not centered on power, but on service, not on slogans, but on scars, not on triumph, but on humility and hope. Whether or not Tagle becomes Pope, his impact is already being felt. He has helped shift the Church's imagination toward a more global, inclusive, and missionary future. He has shown that leadership can be gentle, yet strong, humble, yet bold. For millions, he is a living sign that the Spirit is still moving, still surprising, and still calling the Church to be a home for all. The promise and possibility of Tagle's candidacy will continue to inspire, challenge, and unite the faithful, no matter what the next conclave brings. Part 9. Humility, Hope, and the Spiritual Heart of Tagle's Candidacy. As the world's gaze lingers on the possibility of Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle becoming the next pope, it is not only his resume or reputation that draws attention, but the profound spiritual character he embodies. For millions, Tagle represents a church that is humble, open to the wounded, and ever attentive to the quiet movement of the Holy Spirit. His candidacy is a living lesson in what it means to trust, to hope, and to serve with a heart modeled on Christ. Tagle's spiritual vision is rooted in humility, a quality he has consistently described as essential for any true evangelizer. How can one be the bearer of the good news when one seeks praise, adulations, and the best seat he once asked? Reminding the church that ambition and self-seeking are contrary to the gospel mission. For Tagle, the church's power comes not from its institutions or influence, but from its willingness to imitate Christ's respect for every human being, to embrace silence, and to become a space where God and humanity truly encounter one another. This humility is not passive, it is active and courageous. Tagle has repeatedly called the church age to become a field hospital, echoing Pope Francis, where the most urgent wounds of humanity are tended first. He urges Catholics not to shy away from the darkness of wounds, whether personal, social, or institutional, but to confront them with hope, trust, and a spirit of healing. In his vision, healing is not only God's initiative, but also a communal journey where every believer is invited to participate in the work of redemption. Tagle's approach to leadership is marked by a willingness to admit when the church does not have all the answers, and to remain silent when humility demands it. This posture is both a strength and a source of debate among cardinals and observers. Some see in Tagle's humility a Christ-like wisdom, a readiness to listen and discern rather than to dominate or dictate. Others worry that such humility could be perceived as timidity, especially in a world that often equates leadership with assertiveness and control. Yet for many, Tagle's humility is precisely what the church needs at this moment. In a time of rapid change, scandal, and division, his style offers a path of reconciliation and renewal. His supporters point to his deep awareness of poverty, migration, and the dignity of every person, qualities shaped by his experience leading Caritas Internationalis and by his Filipino heritage, which gives him unique insight into the global realities facing the church. They see in him a bridge between East and West tradition and innovation, and a leader who understands the church as a truly international community with intricate needs and responsibilities. Tagle's critics, meanwhile, highlight the challenges he has faced. His relatively young age, questions about his management style, and concerns that he would simply continue the Francis agenda without needed change. But even these critiques often circle back to the heart of his appeal, a leader who is not afraid to admit weakness, to seek advice, and to trust in God's providence rather than in his own strength. The spiritual heart of Tagle's candidacy is also reflected in how he invites the faithful to participate in the journey. He encourages Catholics, parents, teachers, children, and all believers to pray for the next pope, to trust in the Holy Spirit, and to see the conclave not as a political contest, but as a sacred moment for the whole church. He reminds us that the church's mission is not about positions, but about missions, not about being first, but about serving with love and humility. As the conclave approaches, Tagle's witness continues to inspire hope. His vision of a church that is humble, respectful, and silent before the mystery of God resonates with those who long for a faith that is both ancient and ever new. Whether or not he is chosen as the next pope, Tagle's candidacy has already left a mark, calling the church to rediscover the power of humility, the necessity of hope, and the beauty of trusting in the Spirit's gentle guidance. In the end, The story of Tagle's papal prospects is not just about one man's future, but about the kind of church the world needs today. A church that listens, heals, and walks with all, especially the wounded. It is a reminder that the greatest leaders are those who serve, and that the heart of the church beats strongest when it is closest to Christ's own heart. Part 10. The unfolding future, Tagle's legacy, and the church's path ahead. As Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle's name continues to stir hope and debate across the Catholic world, the question of whether he will ever become Pope remains open, but his legacy is already taking shape. In the tapestry of the Church's journey, Tagle stands as a living sign of the Spirit's ongoing work, a leader who points to a future marked by humility, dialogue, and a renewed sense of mission. The story of his candidacy is not just about one man's destiny, but about the direction the Church chooses as it faces the joys and wounds of a changing world. Tagle's legacy is first and foremost one of presence. He has shown that leadership is not about commanding from above, but about walking alongside the people, listening, encouraging, and sharing in their struggles and hopes. His years as Bishop Cardinal and head of Caritas Internationalis and the Dicastery for Evangelization have been marked by a consistent willingness to be present where suffering is greatest and where hope is most needed. Whether comforting families after a typhoon in the Philippines, advocating for migrants and refugees, or quietly encouraging young priests and lay leaders, Tagle has modeled the art of accompaniment that Pope Francis so often describes. This legacy is also one of bridge building in a church often divided by geography, culture, and ideology. Tagle has worked to foster unity without demanding uniformity. He has brought together voices from Asia, Africa, Latin America, and Europe, helping the Church to recognize its truly global face. His gentle insistence that the Church must be both universal and local, rooted in tradition, but open to new expressions, has inspired many to see diversity not as a threat, but as a gift. Tagle's witness to humility and mercy remains a guiding light for those who long for a more compassionate church. He has reminded Catholics that the heart of the gospel is not a set of rules, but the person of Jesus who meets each person with love and calls the church to do the same. His openness to dialogue with other faiths, his advocacy for the poor, and his readiness to admit mistakes have shown that true strength lies in vulnerability and trust in God. As the Church looks to the future, the path ahead is both challenging and filled with promise. The next conclave, whether soon or years away, will be shaped by the questions Tagle's life has raised. Can the Church truly become a home for all? Will it continue the journey of reform and renewal, begun by Pope Francis? How will it respond to the cries of the poor, the young, and those on the margins? Tagle's example suggests that the answers will not come from power or prestige, but from a willingness to listen, to serve, and to trust in the Spirit's surprising ways. For those who hope to see Tagle in white, the future remains uncertain. The conclave is a place of mystery, where the Holy Spirit moves in ways that often defy human prediction. Tagle's age, experience, and global appeal keep him among the leading candidates, but the outcome will depend on countless factors: alliances, discernment, and above all, the quiet work of grace in the hearts of the cardinals. Yet whether or not Tagle is ever called to the papacy, his legacy will endure. He has already shaped a generation of Catholics to dream bigger, to love deeper, and to believe that the Church can be both ancient and ever new. His life is a testimony to the truth that greatness in the Church is measured not by titles, but by faithfulness, humility, and the courage to hope as the Church continues its journey. Tagle's story invites all believers to walk forward with trust. The path ahead may be uncertain, but the Spirit is always at work guiding the Church toward a future of mercy, justice, and joy. In this unfolding story, Every Catholic is called to play a part, to listen, to serve, and to keep hope alive, knowing that in the end, it is Christ who leads, and it is love that endures.